selling it to a minority ownership group that could show the NFL is moving in the right direction. Hey, it's one thing to talk about black coaches in the National Football League. It's one thing to talk about black general managers. It's another thing to start talking about a minority owner owning the football team.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
They actually play Miami and nobody else. Bum after bum after bum. Now, the key ingredient to this clause, though, Joe, college football undefeated season. Ooh, no, wait, Donnie. You're undefeated in the regular season. You got to win like 4 games to win that championship. No, you don't. It's regular season. Notre Dame, the kings of duck, and saying, hey, we're going to play the easiest schedule ever. They got it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The money line keeps climbing, though, if you'll notice.
Yes.
The point spread hasn't moved. It's been locked in at 4.5. The money line, though, keeps creeping up, man. It was 210, and it's funny because normally you figure the number would be correlated, right? It's like, all right, the money line, the point spread's this, that means the money line is that, which tells us there's a lot of money line plays coming in on Seattle.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He completed a pool bank shot at just 2 years and 302 days. His achievements make him one of the youngest double record holders ever. So let me summarize this for you without reading. He's 2 years old, and he's really good at pool. I mean, that is crazy. 2 years old! How is he doing this? I have no idea. So I guess we got to start training our youngsters to play pool. Okay, fair enough.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We pivot out of football season. It's time to dial in. We got baseball season coming in about a week. Actually, some huge results in college basketball last night, including the #1 team in the country taking a loss. We'll break that down for you as well. We got some great guests. Gilbert McGregor will join us here on the show. We'll talk some NBA. Major League Baseball player Dane Myers, now of the Cincinnati Reds, will get us ready for spring training and a whole lot more on this edition of NewsWire. So stay on the grid with us for the next 90 minutes or so. Let's get started with our biggest sports prediction market story of the day, and it's a very big one out of the state of Massachusetts. As of right now, it appears that Kalshi and maybe Polymarket, Crypto.com, and some of the other companies that are running prediction markets are going to have to exit the state of Massachusetts. The emergency motion filed by Kalshi to keep sport event contracts alive in the state of Massachusetts, denied by a superior court judge. That means that the company's got to pull its event contracts within 30 days. So Massachusetts definitely is one state that doesn't want prediction markets intact, and remains to be seen if other states are going to follow suit here. But meanwhile, Polymarket says, we've had enough of this, and their U.S. business has sued Massachusetts in return. They've sued the Attorney General and gaming regulator in federal court, saying that it would suffer imminent and irreparable harm if the state tried to block its event contracts the way that they did with Kalshi. I got news for you. Polymarket's on deck here. So we'll see if this means anything for the rest of the country. But Massachusetts appears to be the biggest state in our country that will not accept prediction markets in the future. Meanwhile, in college basketball last night, perhaps the first and last time Arizona loses this season. We'll see. Number 9, Kansas beat Arizona. It's their first loss of the season for the Wildcats. 82-78 the final. Arizona was favored and they lost. And so the Jayhawks take the victory. They even won without their best player, Darian Peterson. He had the flu. He was out of this game. Bill Self, after the game, certainly gives all the credit to his team and the home crowd for picking up their biggest win of the year.
And it was a fabulous night. We played a really good team, and we didn't play great, but they didn't play great either. And so that's kind of what you're talking about, I think.
Did the flu hit Darren Layton? How is he, and when did you know he wasn't going to?
Well, we don't know if it's the flu. It's flu-like symptoms. At least that's what I've been told. So he didn't practice yesterday, but we were hoping he could play today. And, he came out for shoot around and wasn't able to go. So, but we didn't know until Probably 7:30 that he probably wasn't going to be able to go. But we knew it was 50-50 yesterday that he may not be able to play.
Meanwhile, one of the hottest teams in college basketball wins again. That's St. John's. They pick up their 10th straight win. They needed overtime to beat Xavier 87-82. Of course, Xavier coached by Richard Pitino, the son of Rick Pitino. So with that 10th straight win, a very excited Rick Pitino basically in overtime decided he does not want to have to play his son again in the upcoming tournament.
I hope we don't play them in the Big East tournament. But like I said, I think my son's brilliant, proud of him. I hate getting any milestone against him, but I go away tonight saying my son's a hell of a coach. And that's I'm much prouder than 900, 1,000, 1,100. To say my son's a great coach is much more pleasing to me than any number of victories. So we're excited to get the victory. We got a big one coming up on Saturday. Obviously at Providence, who's playing good basketball right now. We are, 19-5? So it's a great record, and we're proud of it.
Well done, I would say, by Rick Pitino there with his son. Oregon loses again. By the way, you talk about cold streaks. They've lost 10 straight games. Indiana beat them 92-74, easily covering the 10.5-point spread. It looks like the Ducks will be on the outside of March Madness this year. All right, the NBA's biggest story last night was a fight. The Pistons finally take care of the Hornets, who hadn't lost a game in a couple of weeks. 9 straight wins for them comes to an end. Pistons win 110-104, but there was a big fight in the game that's going to lead to a lot of suspensions. Isaiah Stewart is a player that came off the bench in this game and probably going to be suspended. We have a little clip here that we'll show you, and then we will go right to J.B. Bickerstaff, the head coach of the Pistons, who said that it was not his team's fault.
Again, our guys deal with a lot, right? But they're not the ones that initiated. They're not the ones that crossed the line tonight. It was clear, through frustration because of what JD was doing, that they crossed the line. And I hate that it got as ugly as it got. That's not something that you ever want to see. But if a guy throws a punch at you, you have a responsibility to protect yourself. And that's what happened tonight. You go back and watch the film. They're the ones that initiated crossing the line. And our guy had to defend himself.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and watch it again. Just looked like, a ton of physicality. And two guys kind of got in a heated conversation, and then it kind of spiraled from there.
For you to get ejected, what was the reason for that?
Yeah, I take ownership of it. I thought that we were competing our tails off. I thought that it was a very physical game, and Grant's walking down the paint and barely touched somebody, and the guy fell over, and that's what we're going to call a foul. So, again, they have a hard job to have to make these calls, but I don't think that was like the consistency of what had been called the rest of the game.
Denver Nuggets led the Cleveland Cavaliers for the majority of their game last night, but in the end, Cleveland comes back and wins 119-117. The Nuggets were 2.5-point favorites. Donovan Mitchell had 32 points in the game, and Nikola Jokic had a triple-double on the other side. 22 points, 14 rebounds, 11 assists. Here's Mitchell on the great comeback victory.
Donovan, what did it take to win a game against that caliber opponent when you trailed for nearly 43 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a mental approach, right? Finding ways. And we had been saying it all game, right? We're right there. A lot of our stuff was our own mistakes. We're still right there. So for us to finally get over that hump in the last minute 47 is huge. But, it's a testament to who we have on the team and what we got going, man. It was a good win.
They've handled it well. It's just it's not a fun thing for anybody. It really screws your rhythm. And let's think about this. It's not just Nikola, but I bring Jonas in for a short period of time. He misses 2 free throws, but he's stiff. He's playing short bursts. And then the other part of that is if I get Jamal out, Nikola's starting quarters helps us, but it also breaks up his minutes. So it's just where we're at right now. And it's not why we lost the game. It's a weird rhythm to how we're playing right now. And it's just trying to find a new rotation. I know when we get through the All-Star break, we'll rediscuss what that is, and we can get back to a more normal rotation.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander missed the game last night. As expected, the Thunder still beat the Lakers 119-110. They were 5.5-point favorites. Jalen Williams, of course, second best player on Oklahoma City. He had 23 points. And a big shock last night for the Portland Trailblazers. They put up 135 points on offense to beat the Philadelphia 76ers 135-118. And when something like that happens, you ask how many three-point shots did Portland make last night? Well, the number that I see here in front of me is 22. So naturally, that is a lot in the NBA. All right, we will take a quick time out here on the show. When we come back next, we'll dive more into the National Basketball Association, a crazy night around the league. Gilbert McGregor will join us. We'll also talk some baseball with Dane Myers. But up next here on the show, we got Dustin Gawker talking prediction markets with us. We'll be right back on NewsWire. Don't go away. Aaron Judge, no stranger to hitting 60 home runs in a season, but we certainly aren't going to put a FanDuel win total or even DraftKings at 60. So Sam, our producer, set it at 55. Aaron Judge will hit 55-plus home runs this year. You going to buy or sell?
All right, Aaron Rodgers here.
Oh, there
Aaron,
he is.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Can you hit 55? Aaron Judge, right? Got it in my head here. 55 is asking a lot, Sam. It's asking a lot. He hit 53 last year, 58 the year before, 37, but that was the year he hurt his toe in Dodger Stadium, and then, of course, 62. I got to sell this. All right, you're asking for just to be 7 home runs off the record? I mean, no, we can't keep doing this every year here. Plus, he does have an injury history there. Over the last 2 years, he's been completely healthy. I'll just say no. Between the possibility of an injury, teams waking up and going, nope, not pitching to him, I'll take the under here. Although, as a Yankee fan, he better, because if he don't, Yankees gonna be in a lot of trouble.
So I've decided to go by the letter of the law. Sam is not gonna like this. Sam is not gonna like my answer. Yep. Sam, listen. Sam leaves these little loopholes in the buy or sell. 55 home runs between 55 plus the regular season, postseason, World Baseball Classic. Buy. Spring training. Buy. Above 55 between spring training, World Baseball Classic, regular season, and postseason. Aaron Judge will hit 55 home runs. He didn't say this season. He didn't say this season. He said this year. The graphic says this year.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday, starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Dustin Gawker is with us. You should subscribe to his podcast to learn more about this ever-changing prediction markets around the country and also what the future may hold, also doing a podcast discussing it as well. But he's kind enough to join us weekly to go over the latest in terms of landscape. Dustin, thanks for coming on the show. And when I say staggering, I don't want to give away the number here, but man, is it possible from what I saw online that somebody tweeted this out, that Kalshi, did they make more money, Dustin, than Las Vegas betting on the Super Bowl this week? I mean, my gosh, the amount of money that is coming in for these prediction markets, I understand why they're fighting back to try and stay around.
All right, let's start here. They didn't make more money than Vegas, but they took a lot of bets. Let's put it that way for sure. I have the number on Super Bowl Sunday, about $870 million was traded. Again, I caution you, that is not the same as sports betting handle for a variety of reasons, but we also saw Nevada sportsbooks, which includes Las Vegas, only took about $133 million in handle. That was its worst performance in the decade in terms of total handle on the game. Now we don't have ratings, we don't have a lot of other things. There's a lot of reasons for that, but at the bottom line is Kalshi did a lot of trading volume on the Super Bowl. The CEO went on CNBC this morning and said they had more than $1 billion on markets related to the game. That includes the weeks leading up to the game. It also includes things like betting on the Super Bowl halftime show and people who will be at the game, things like that. We'll get to that in a minute, I think, here. But yeah, huge number. We also know that regulated sportsbooks, we've talked about this before, 1.7 billion was the estimate on how much handle there would be. So again, Kalshi very big, but it is still not as big as regulated sports betting. But again, we were talking about this time last year. Only $26 million was traded on the Super Bowl last year as Kalshi was ramping all this up. So a much different spot for them. I actually saw some people sharing the most expensive billboard on the Vegas Strip had Kalshi odds on it. It was a moment for Kalshi and prediction markets for sure. And certainly you could bet on this in places where you previously couldn't. California and Texas come to top of mind. So absolutely big moment for them. And the question will be whether they keep that momentum up after the Super Bowl. We all know the sports calendar winds down a little bit here. Yes, there's NBA. We have March Madness. There's the World Cup this summer, but the summer is kind of the doldrums for sports betting. Cal should be able to keep up this momentum, and what will we see over the summer leading into the next football season? And we also have a lot of other operators who are coming into this space to contest it.
So one of the discussions that's I've seen back and forth on here from the prediction markets was the halftime show and the ability to make predictions based on who was going to show up with Bad Bunny and participate. Some of them I thought were pretty obvious. I did see Ronald Acuna Jr. I did see Pedro Pascal. I did see Jessica Alba, but there was one celebrity, Dustin, in particular, that's really been stirring up the pot because I guess they're not positive if this celebrity was there or not. Can you get into more details for us on this?
Yeah, you have this headline up. Did Cardi B perform during the Super Bowl halftime? Prediction markets aren't sure. This is I started this newsletter a year ago, and this is the thing I have written that people have read the most. So we're in this weird timeline where this is the world we live in. People betting on whether people will perform at the Super Bowl halftime show. All right, if you watch the halftime show, obviously there are lots of people making cameos in the background, just kind of dancing in the little bodega that Bad Bunny had. You mentioned some of the people that were there. Cardi B was one of those people. And prediction markets, by and large, had the same kind of markets. Whether somebody would quote unquote perform at the Super Bowl with Bad Bunny, and some of them were very clear about what it takes for a yes bet to win on this. At Kalshi, it said both for yes and no that dancing, quote unquote dancing, could be yes. It resolves to yes, she was performing. Dancing, no, she was not performing. So people were getting very mad online about this because they had trades and bets on this and whether she would perform. Obviously, you and I saw her at the halftime show, but Kalshi ends up, there's millions of dollars being traded on this well after the performance was done. And it's just kind of crazy what was going on around this. Kalshi eventually has to close the market, does this weird thing where they say, we're going to close it and you get paid out at the last traded value, which was 26 on the dollar for yes. So people are pissed. I know somebody who's sent in a complaint to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission about all this, and I think it's a symptom of the weird world we live in, where these are supposed to be serious financial instruments, but they're also just nonsense betting on cultural events. Which again, that would be fine if we all just kind of realized this is fun. We're gambling on whether people are going to be at the game. It also brings up the idea of insider trading. There's certainly people who knew Cardi B was going to be a part of this halftime show, and they probably knew what her role was, that she wasn't going to be singing. So lots of weirdness here. Kalshi's dealing with a lot of customer complaints, and out of the Super Bowl, other than the volume, this is the thing that people seem to be latching on to the most, and the things that people are talking to me most about after the Super Bowl in prediction markets.
So this was your most clicked item since you started the Substack. Is that true?
Yeah, I did it almost a year ago, and this is the thing that has the most views. Wild times.
Wow. How about that? Of all the, I guess that gives you an indication how to move forward, Dustin, with the Substack.
It
Just
does.
stick to Cardi B and and Drake and Lamar and all those guys. Okay, let's get into this new partnership with Kalshi, another fantasy operator, so to speak. Who are they partnering with, trying to take advantage of this market?
Yeah, we already had Prize Picks and Underdog in this space, the two largest fantasy pick'em operators. Now we have Sleeper, announced on Friday, I believe, that they were partnering with Kalshi and going to launch, prediction markets, basically, team money lines, point spreads, things like that on their app. They're maybe not as well known as those two brands I just said, but they have 10 million users. They are also a fantasy, a season-long fantasy app. They have a lot of users. They again claim 10 million users. They're far smaller as as something that does daily fantasy, but this is a big move for them and a big addition of customer liquidity for Kalshi as well. So big move. You're going to see more partnerships like this definitely as the time goes on here.
Yeah, and I think, Dustin, the final question that I would have for you is, earlier in the show we discussed the state of Massachusetts is pushing back, and essentially looks like in the next 30 days Kalshi is going to have to exit. Here's my question, 30 seconds. Why does Kalshi have to exit but not Polymarket as of yet? What's the difference?
Well, Kalshi did this all first, so they've been fighting this battle longer. Polymarket actually just filed a lawsuit to try to go to court as well to stop all this from happening. But there's a chance that prediction markets have to pull out of Massachusetts, and that'll be interesting to see if it does happen.
All right, Dustin, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up next week.
Cheers.
We'll be right back.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Can USA overtake Canada and get that gold, Joe?
Absolutely, they can here. And ultimately, it feels like that is the two-horse race. And I think ultimately, Canadians don't really care if their team competes in the luge or the bobsled, Donnie, or anything else. They just want that gold when it comes to ice hockey. And that is the only thing that's going to matter there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
Right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on Kraft.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
But I will say, at 4.5 and over, I've been with covers for 20 plus years now. I've been betting for a long time. When it comes to 4 and 4.5 point spreads, if I'm looking at the favorite, I do not lay the points. I go straight to the money line, knowing that it's minus 200. This has been a no man's land for football betting in the NFL, basically since 2015, since they moved the point after touchdown back.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. For those of you interested, the Winter Olympics are officially underway, and it is yet another market that is available, especially in the prediction market space. So we thought we would check in with our morning crew, Donnie Rightside and Joe Ranieri, taking a look at the prediction markets as it pertains to the current Winter Olympics.
Predictive markets, you know we love it right here on the early line on the SportsGrid Network, and also Prediction Markets Edge. You'll see that this weekend once again with a fired-up show this weekend post-Super Bowl as we get it cracking, Joe. But a couple good topics to talk about today, which includes history at the Winter Olympics, mixed doubles curling final, Sweden versus the United States, our first chance to medal with a legitimate chance now at a gold medal. If we look at the predictive markets right now, Joe, USA, 65% trading as a chance for the gold medal. Sweden, 37% chance here, Joe. We are actually the favorite in a competition we've never got a medal in. How about that?
You gotta love it, Donnie. I mean, it's a new era. It's a new group of athletes, and listen, that sport has come a long way as far as popularity here in this country. So kudos. I really hope it gets it done. And if you haven't checked it out, Donnie, you really should, because it is actually really interesting.
By the way, $100 wager on fading the United States today would pay back $278. Who would go against national pride? Who would do that and bet against their own country here? Just love the fact that the U.S. is a favorite. We'll see if they can carry that. By the way, behind the scenes, do we have a time on when this mixed double curling final is going to take place? Do we have to wait for a little bit later today? Is it going around lunchtime today? 12:05 p.m. Eastern here, Joe. So having your lunch today, you can sit down and watch to see if the U.S. can actually take home mixed curling and a gold medal here. Now, women's ice hockey, gold medal country. You know it's coming down to two places, USA and Canada. Team USA trading currently at a 61% chance, Joe, and Team Canada at a 40% chance. Sweden coming in with a 2% chance to get that gold, but it looks like the U.S. is the favorite right now over Canada.
Yeah, and they just looked absolutely dominant again yesterday, Donnie, didn't they? So they are the favorite for a reason, I think, the women's side, Team USA. And yeah, I think they going to go a little scorched earth here, I think, on the women's side, right through to the gold medal.
Yeah, taking a look yesterday here, it seems that women's ice hockey had Italy and Japan 3-2 final there, which Italy won. Germany 2-1 over France, and then Team USA a 5-0 victory over Switzerland, and Canada a 5-1 victory over Czechia. Now that game, is it today, Joe? Do we have? Yeah, there we go. 2:10 start. 2-0 Canada, 3-0 Team USA. That is going to be one to watch today, Joe. By any feelers there? Does Team USA put up a big show against Canada?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Team USA is now 3-0, right? And they've outscored their opponents by a score of 15-1 here. So obviously much tougher competition today. But yeah, I believe there's also Marie-Philippa Poulin, is it? May be considered one of the greatest players in women's hockey. I guess she got into a collision in one of the games there. So there's some question marks about whether or not they'll even have their best player on the ice today.
That game's going to take place today, USA versus Canada, -170 favorite here at FanDuel on the money line here for Team USA in a total that's listed at 5.5. We'll see if that goes a long way in changing up some of these odds once that game is final.
That is Donnie and Joe on the early line exclusively here on SportsGrid. Back to football we go just for a second. Let's get to the latest headlines here. Keon White had surgery after being shot in the ankle in San Francisco last weekend. He suffered a bullet wound, had successful surgery. They're not life-threatening, and hopefully for his sake, of course, and everybody else's, White can participate in some off-the-field activities pretty soon. David Njoku goes to social media to confirm that he is no longer going to be a member of the Cleveland Browns. He spent 9 years there. He's headed toward free agency. I guess he plans to sign somewhere else. And my buddy Adam Gase, who I see a lot of time on the baseball field here in South Florida coaching his son, looks like he's headed back to the National Football League. He's going to join the Chargers and their coaching staff somehow on the offensive side. I guess maybe as quarterbacks coach, because Mike McDaniel's their offensive coordinator. So two former Dolphins head coaches, Mike McDaniel and Adam Gase, both going to be with the Chargers next season. All right, we'll take a quick time out here on the show. We come back next. We'll hit on the NBA, what a crazy night it was, and also check in with big leaguer Dane Myers on the show coming up too. Lots of fun guests and great content here on this edition of NewsWire. And we'll be back right after these quick messages with the very latest. Don't go away.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Can USA overtake Canada and get that gold, Joe?
Absolutely, they can here. And ultimately, it feels like that is the two-horse race. And I think ultimately, Canadians don't really care if their team competes in the luge or the bobsled, Donnie, or anything else. They just want that gold when it comes to ice hockey. And that is the only thing that's going to matter there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
Right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on Kraft.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
But I will say at 4.5 and over, I've been with covers for 20 plus years now, been betting for a long time. When it comes to 4 and 4.5 point spreads, if I'm looking at the favorite, I do not lay the points. I go straight to the money line, knowing that it's minus 200. This has been a no man's land for football betting in the NFL, basically since 2015, since they moved the point after touchdown back.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Always great to catch up with Gilbert McGregor, who we're going to be catching up with quite a bit after the NBA's All-Star break and get into everything in the NBA each and every week. He's covering the Phoenix Suns out west and certainly is weighing in on the NBA with us. Gilbert, great to have you back here on NewsWire. Very big win, I thought, last night for the Cleveland Cavaliers. James Harden hasn't asked for a trade from there yet, so I guess he'll finish the season with Cleveland. They win 119-117 over the Denver Nuggets, and it didn't come easy. It was a comeback win for them, but definitely shows that Cleveland, I think, has gotten through that mid-season slump at this point.
Absolutely. And adding James Harden has injected a little life into this franchise. You mentioned the comeback when they trailed by 11 points in the fourth quarter there. And they had a quote post-game, so they haven't even practiced together yet. They're just kind of playing basketball off of vibes and learning how to play with one another in real time. So to see James Harden and Donovan Mitchell display that chemistry and for them to get that win. I know the Nuggets were shorthanded, but the Cavs were also without Evan Mobley in that game. So I think the Cavs should feel confident about what they have going forward. I know that James Harden doesn't necessarily have the best track record in the postseason, but they're doing something a little different than they have in years past. And last night is another example of the peak and what this team could potentially achieve during the rest of the season.
Donovan Mitchell last night and also James Harden a combined 55 points, 17 assists, 11 rebounds, and 5 3-pointers, a combination that they'll be looking for to get deep into the postseason as James Harden going back over to the Eastern Conference. And by the way, their win total sits at 52.5 for the season. And for them to win the Eastern Conference, their odds are plus 340, deeper odds to win the NBA Finals as well. All right, so Gilbert on social media last night as I was scrolling through after my son's baseball game, I see Gilbert say something about what's going on in the NBA tonight. We got all this craziness going on, and I guess there was a big fight last night between the Pistons and Hornets. And look, I mean, in this day and age, all I can think about is the Malice in the Palace and that documentary that I saw. I mean, this wasn't that because the fans weren't involved, but I mean, Bickerstaff said that it wasn't his guys and they shouldn't be responsible. I don't know how he could possibly say that, Gilbert. I mean, it takes 2 to fight, doesn't it?
Absolutely does. And I've been watching that game live, and there's some history between the Hornets and the Pistons. They've been going back and forth for several years now. People just hadn't been paying attention because they were both bottom dwellers in the Eastern Conference. But now the Hornets had that 9-game win streak they had going on, and Jalen Duren is a guy who was actually traded by the Hornets on draft night. And he had been talking a lot, and it was physical between he and Moussa Diabate, and things kind of escalated pretty quickly. And you saw, Miles Bridges and Isaiah Stewart coming off the bench. It was a melee, a mess as far as that goes. It kind of took away from the game that it was. I'm sure some suspensions will be coming down on both sides of that. But when you look at it, the Pistons have been holding down the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Hornets could be the 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. So this could be a playoff preview between two teams who have some bad blood. So I'm sure people will be paying attention very closely the next time the Hornets and Pistons play one another.
Never a good thing to lose your best player. But if there is a silver lining for the Thunder can look at that win against the Lakers and say, this is the model we can use just in case SGA has to miss a game, which he doesn't miss very often, but obviously he's out for a couple of weeks. When you talk about contributions here, Jalen Williams, 23 points. Okay, that's fine. Joe, Caruso, Holmgren, Wallace, Williams, Hartenstein, all in double figures. I know they're extremely well coached team, Gilbert, but this just kind of goes to show how deep the Thunder are and why they're favored to win the NBA title.
Absolutely. The Thunder have incredible depth. And as you saw last night, Jalen Williams' first game back from injury, and he was able to have that type of impact. And Cason Wallace has been a guy who stepped up very well in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's absence. And Isaiah Hartenstein, you look at that, kind of flirted with a triple-double. I think he had 6 of those assists in the first half. So a lot of these guys on the Thunder are stepping up. A.J. Mitchell's another player who hasn't been available for them. And you're LeBron James, say it post-game. The Thunder are a team who are a championship contender for a reason. They play all 48 minutes and make you work for all 48 minutes. There's never a night off, regardless of who's available or who isn't available for this Thunder team. That's exactly why they're still favored to win it all this year.
Last night, Anthony Edwards had a big game for the Minnesota Timberwolves in their 138-116 win, 30 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and certainly the Hawks a little bit up against it at the moment, still in that, of course, play-in range like they always are, but Minnesota's one of those teams to be reckoned with. Their odds are the 5th shortest, in the West.
Absolutely. Timberwolves, I think, are a team who we don't talk about enough, the fact that they've gone to the conference finals 2 consecutive years. Obviously have not gotten over the hump, but previously in franchise history, they had only gone once. So you think about where they are right now, what Anthony Edwards has done for them, bringing in Julius Randle and still finding ways to win. And last night it was Ayo Dosunmu who had a big game off the bench for them, and he was acquired at the trade deadline. So he kind of answers that need they had for more backcourt help, a little more of a true point guard presence for them. And I think the Timberwolves are going to benefit from adding him to what they have already. And I think that they will be a team worth watching out for in the Western Conference because they've done it before back-to-back years.
Big spread night in the NBA, Gilbert. Let's run through 3 of them. The Rockets -8.5 against the Clippers, total of 210.5. 8 p.m. Eastern start. Clippers certainly with Kawhi Leonard and their cast of characters. I thought it was a little strange of a trade, but, obviously getting Darius Garland, not the worst thing in the world for them. Do they have enough to keep this game close tonight against Houston?
I actually do think the Clippers can keep this game close. The Rockets have been going through a little bit of a phase lately. I watched them play over the weekend against Oklahoma City, and they ended up winning the game, but they had a lot of sloppy moments in which they could have been much better. And the Clippers on Sunday looked really good against the Timberwolves. Kawhi Leonard had that 41-point performance. So I think the Clippers, regardless of who's available for them, I think they're going to get their new guys or some of the new guys they acquired. Benedict Mathurin, a guy they got from Indiana. I think he might be available tonight. So those guys will fight and claw. I think they will at least keep it close in Houston.
Spurs take on the Lakers, and I see a spread like this, and I wonder, is somebody out tonight? Because San Antonio's 8.5-point road favorites at LA, total 228.5. Obviously, it's a back-to-back for LA. 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Got to check the starting lineups, I guess, in this one.
That's one to continue to monitor closer to game time. But I do like the Spurs in this one. You mentioned the Lakers being on the second end of a back-to-back, Craig. This is an older team without Luka Doncic. And, the Spurs are a younger team. And young teams have typically given the Lakers fits this season because of their ability to get up and down the floor. So Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, those guys will definitely be a lot for the Lakers to deal with. And I just don't know if they have enough firepower.
The Indiana Pacers can't wait for the season to end and get the ping pong balls going. That's just all I can say about them. The Knicks are 12-point favorites tonight, 224.5. I would imagine the Knicks will probably win this game at the Garden, but can they cover the big number, Gilbert?
12 really does feel like a lot. The Knicks looked really good on Sunday against the Celtics. So if they're building on that momentum, I do kind of see a way that they do it. But just because it's so much, it kind of feels like one to stay away from. But if you want to side and believe in the fact that this Knicks team, I believe, has won 9 of their last 10 games, save for a game in Detroit last Friday, they looked really good as of late. And as you mentioned, the Pacers are focused on the future. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. They just lost Johnny Furphy to a torn ACL. So it's a Pacers team that, like you said, they're just ready for this season to be over. So if you believe in that and think that this Knicks team can really take care of business and want to continue to build this momentum going into All-Star, then they can cover the 12 points.
Gilbert, Pandora's box opened up a little bit last night between the Utah Jazz and Miami Heat. A very strange coaching decision where the Jazz decide to not play their best players in the fourth quarter in a game that they win, with a coach afterwards saying he had no intention of bringing them back into the game, and a player on the other side saying that basically the team is tanking without saying tanking. What gives in the NBA? I mean, this seems to be a box that has never been opened before, at least verbally, from a coach and a player.
Right. It's pretty incredible to see it kind of come to this. And the Jazz, I think, have been doing this pretty recently. That last game as well, they lost, and Jaren Jackson and Larry Markkinen didn't play in the fourth quarter. I'm curious to see how the league responds to this, because ultimately you can't really tell a coach how to sub his players in and out and how to do his rotations. But I will be interested to see if this is going to be the new advanced way of tanking or being future focused, however way you want to place it or put it. But the fact that they still won the game says a lot about the basketball gods, the Jazz, and where the Heat are right now. So I'll be very curious, and I have my eye on what's going on with the Jazz moving forward, especially like that, and other teams that might decide to do the same thing.
All right, Gilbert, as always, great stuff. I'm sure we'll catch up next week. Thanks for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Appreciate having me.
Gilbert McGregor with us here on the show. Follow all of his Phoenix Suns coverage online as well. Coming up next, pitchers and catchers have officially reported in Major League Baseball, with position players getting ready to show up this weekend. Dane Myers is one of those. Will join us next here on the show.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
Right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on Kraft.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
The money line keeps climbing, though, if you'll notice.
Yes.
The point spread hasn't moved. It's been locked in at 4.5. The money line, though, keeps creeping up, man. It was 210, and it's funny because normally you figure the number would be correlated, right? It's like, all right, the money line, the point spread's this, that means the money line is that, which tells us there's a lot of money line plays coming in on Seattle.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Adding Hunter doesn't instantly fix its woes, it paper cuts them. He helps their perimeter defense and spacing, but Sacramento still lacks a true star and parts that they have to move. Hunter and Sacramento won't save the season, but this move tells you the Kings have officially given up on its aspirational stars and doubling down on depth as their future.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
They actually play Miami and nobody else. Bum after bum after bum. Now, the key ingredient to this clause, though, Joe, college football undefeated season. Ooh, no, wait, Donnie. You undefeated in the regular season. You got to win like 4 games to win that championship. No, you don't. It's regular season. Notre Dame, the kings of duck, and saying, hey, we're going to play the easiest schedule ever. They got it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Pitchers and catchers reporting this week in Major League Baseball in Florida and Arizona. We thought we'd do a little preview, take you around the league a little bit. We'll check in on the Cincinnati Reds. Gosh, this is hard to say. Cincinnati Reds. My guy Dane Myers, formerly of the Marlins, traded to the Reds in the offseason, is going to spend his first Arizona in spring training. Dane, it's great to have you here on NewsWire. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it definitely is. All right, so this has been a very eventful offseason for you. You have the same routine the last few years, reporting to Jupiter, going to spring training, playing with the Marlins, and then you find out a couple of months ago you're traded to the Cincinnati Reds. So this I'm sure may have caught you a little bit by surprise. I know that you were in some trade rumors even at the deadline last year, but what did you make of the deal when you heard about it?
Yeah, it was a little surprising. Obviously, it's the business of baseball, and each team's trying to get better. So I can't fault Miami for trying to make a move that they felt helps the organization. But leaving a bunch of my guys and leaving the organization that I made my MLB debut in, and leaving a good group of fans, leaving all those things behind is tough. But I'm looking forward to the opportunity I got in Cincinnati for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's really the key is opportunity in the big leagues. And Dane, I think for some people who may not know your backstory, I mean, definitely not a clear path to the big leagues, to say the least. Changing positions and doing things differently in order to get to make your Major League Baseball debut. For those unfamiliar, catch them up on the path that you made to get to the big leagues, because it's certainly very unusual.
Yeah, coming in or in college, I was a two-way guy, so that's kind of why I chose Rice, because they were going to give me the opportunity to do both as long as I wanted to. And I was drafted by the Tigers in 17, and they felt my path to the big leagues was going to be as a pitcher on the mound. So I believe that as well. I think deep down in my heart, though, I knew I was a position player and knew I wanted to play every day. Um, I think that kind of poured over into my pitching performance a couple of years in, and didn't really go how I wanted to on the mound, and found myself thinking about hitting again a couple of years into it, and fortunately the Tigers thought the same thing, and for them to give me the chance just to kind of change positions and go back to hitting after 2 or 3 years, and not really having too much success right off the bat in our inter squad games and practices, and them still giving me a shot and eventually making it to the big leagues was pretty special. Something I'll always appreciate. But yeah, hasn't been an easy journey. I know being the old guy in low A and in extended spring training wasn't easy for me. Kind of expecting to be in the upper level of the minors or the big leagues at that point in my career, and kind of restarting was tough, but put my head down, got to work, and it worked out.
Yeah, and I guess my follow up to that, Dane, would be: was there ever a point, and you just mentioned it, being the old guy with all these young bucks coming up trying to steal your job? Was there ever a point where you thought to yourself and said, this dream that I had growing up, thinking that I was going to play, minor league ball, maybe major league ball? You mentioned college, playing at Rice. Was there ever a point where you're like, ugh, let me go on LinkedIn here, see see what else is out there? Was there ever that moment at all that creeped in?
Yeah, for sure. Maybe not as far as creating the LinkedIn account, but definitely some thoughts about possibly having to get a real job. I remember my first like actual full spring training, and it was just after COVID. So I made the switch right before COVID happened, and then COVID happened, and obviously that was kind of like another year that I had lost. So showing up to spring training that next year, and then going to not making a team out of spring training and going to extended spring training, I felt like my chances were pretty low of continuing to play. But just kind of had some people around me and some people in the front office in Detroit tell me that they believed in me, and that's kind of all I needed, was a little bit of extra support to believe in myself as well. So I kind of took that and ran with it.
Yeah, and ran with it with the Marlins, to say the least. You had a nice run with them, without a doubt. Of course, fighting for playing time in Miami, making your debut, doing fantastic. You're the talk of the town in Miami there for a few weeks, but inevitably, all things do come to an end. And I will miss you here in South Florida, but I'm excited for your opportunity in Cincinnati. What have they told you thus far? What is Terry Francona? What is the organization? Have they given you any indication as to sort of where you fit in, or is it Very similar to the course of your career, fight for playing time, etc.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't spoken on roles too much. I know we've got a good team. I know we've got a good outfield, in my opinion, and I know we just signed a big bat in Suarez, so he's going to take up a spot in the lineup that somebody else was probably going to have. But I'm excited to be on a team that wants to compete. I think it'll probably be like the rest of my career and compete for playing time. But in my opinion, that's a good thing. That's when it kind of brings the most out of myself, and I want to win. So I'm not necessarily worried about if I play 162 or I play 100 or 110. I just want to win, and I'm ready to contribute to whatever role I do have.
Yeah, we got a minute left, Dane. You've taken pride on being super fan friendly, which is why I've always been a fan of yours, seeing you interact with fans, especially at the games, signing as many autographs for the kids as possible. Where did you get that from?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to feeling like my career was over at one point. Feeling like I got a second chance at a career, and I always tell people the game's been good to me, so I try and be good back. And you never know who you're gonna inspire and change somebody's day in a positive way. So I've always tried to be that player that fans enjoy to be around.
Dane, good luck with the Reds. Great catching up.
Thanks, Craig.
All right, we'll be right back here on NewsWire.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
Right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on Kraft.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
The money line keeps climbing, though, if you'll notice.
Yes.
The point spread hasn't moved. It's been locked in at 4.5. The money line, though, keeps creeping up, man. It was 210, and it's funny because normally you figure the number would be correlated, right? It's like, all right, the money line, the point spread's this, that means the money line is that, which tells us there's a lot of money line plays coming in on Seattle.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Adding Hunter doesn't instantly fix its woes, it paper cuts them. He helps their perimeter defense and spacing, but Sacramento still lacks a true star and parts that they have to move. Hunter and Sacramento won't save the season, but this move tells you the Kings have officially given up on its aspirational stars and doubling down on depth as their future.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
They actually play Miami and nobody else. Bum after bum after bum. Now, the key ingredient to this clause, though, Joe, college football undefeated season. Ooh, no, wait, Donnie. You go undefeated in the regular season, you got to win like 4 games to win that championship. No, you don't. It's regular season. Notre Dame, the kings of duck, and say, hey, we're going to play the easiest schedule ever. They got it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid as we get ready to wrap up this first hour and talk some baseball with Jack McMullen in a few minutes. Let's check back at the G2E conference back from October, and Brady Cannon sits down with the founder and president of Epoxy.ai, Jason Anglides. Very interesting conversation about the future of AI in sports wagering. Take a listen.
All right, guys, welcome back to G2E. We are live here at the Venetian Expo Center in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Brady Cannon with you here on SportsGrid. Jason Angelides, the president of Epoxy.ai, and just having a little conversation with him off air. Truly, another fascinating aspect of this umbrella we are all under, the global gaming industry here. Jason, thank you so much for joining us here on the program today.
Brady,
welcome to the program.
Thank you. My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and like I said there, just talking to you, and that's really been my experience. And for the audience that's following along, we bring these folks into your chair there, and everybody has got a little niche in this industry, and it's really fascinating how many different lines of work there are.
There are.
Now, first of all, let's talk about Epoxy.ai. From what I understand and what you're telling me is, just like you're looking at your Instagram and an ad pops up that happens to be something that you really are interested in, you're a business that collects data and provides, operators with a target type direction to whatever it is they're selling. You're providing that information for them. And obviously it ties heavily into sports gaming, the gaming industry. Jason, I'm telling you, it seems like you could go beyond that
100%.
And do it with whatever.
Yeah, 100%. And when we look at the overall movement in sports media and entertainment, it's all driving toward personalization, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's a term that everybody uses over and over again, and it means different things to different people. But it's really about putting the right things in front of the right people at the right time. And why? Because that's better business. Very simple, right? So in the betting side where we have customers, Flutter is one of our customers, we have a number of tribal casinos. We are supporting them in a variety of ways, whether it's helping them on the marketing side by putting the right messaging in front of them with the right offer, or on the transactional side by putting the right bet in front of them at the right time based on all sorts of different factors. But that translates very well into other forms of media and entertainment. So we use the same platform to power media as well. So probably the biggest announcement that we've had, very small company, but we are the essentially sports platform provider for LG Electronics.
Okay.
We power their sports ecosystems, meaning all of these TV operating systems are all essentially ways to generate revenue. They're ad networks. Well, what do ad networks need? They need better targeting. So with us, what we come in is we leverage all the data that they have, anonymous data on their user behavior, what they watch, what they're clicking on around sports, and we analyze that and then say, okay, here's a profile of a particular user. This is the content or the offer that they may be interested in at this particular time, whether it's a jersey or something like that. So very exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Epoxy.ai, is it relatively new? I'm going off the AI thing
Yeah, good
here.
question. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Not really. We've been at this for about, going on 16 years. We had a fan engagement company called One to See, which was all about building companion experiences when you're watching TV. How do I follow along and get personalized content? And we ended up selling that business to Comcast. And so we've been doing fan engagement and collecting data around fans for about 16 years. This manifestation of it was recognizing that there was a huge need in the gaming industry to take these experiences that are largely one-to-many and figure out ways to utilize data and create better experiences for end users. So it's just an evolution of the business.
That's fascinating. 16 years of collecting data about the habits of sports fans. What's the craziest or the most common thing that you've found?
Oh God, I mean,
we're nuts.
What's really interesting is just the level of fandom and the level of engagement that people have and how many different touch points they have. Everybody's in their own silo, right? You've got fantasy, you've got, TV viewership, you've got gaming, you've got gamification, right? And so when you look at that, it's very hard to understand all of those collective behaviors because everybody's looking at it in silos. And what we do is really help form that 360 view of the end user to get that full look at fandom, because fandom is very deep, right? It really is.
Jason Angelides, everybody. He is the president of Epoxy.ai. Check it out. Fascinating company that you've started here, my friend. What's next on the horizon? Where are you going from here?
I think it's really about convergence, where we're working on both sides of the fence. We work where the eyeballs are on the TV, and we collect data from that side, and we also work where the transactions are happening.
Exciting stuff. We wish you the best, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very
for
much.
joining us here today.
I enjoyed it.
Jason Angelides, everybody. He is the president of Epoxy.ai. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Can USA overtake Canada and get that gold, Joe?
Absolutely, they can here. And ultimately, it feels like that is the two-horse race. And I think ultimately, Canadians don't really care if their team competes in the luge or the bobsled, Donnie, or anything else. They just want that gold when it comes to ice hockey. And that is the only thing that's going to matter there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
Right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on Kraft.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
But I will say, at 4.5 and over, I've been with covers for 20 plus years now. I've been betting for a long time. When it comes to 4 and 4.5 point spreads, if I'm looking at the favorite, I do not lay the points. I go straight to the money line, knowing that it's minus 200. This has been a no man's land for football betting in the NFL, basically since 2015, since they moved the point after touchdown back.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. The hot stove season is over. Spring training is here. Pitchers and catchers have reported. Full squads next week. We got games to talk about in spring training right around the corner. Let's bring in Jack McMullen as he's getting ready for spring training in Jupiter, Florida. He will be doing the play-by-play on radio for the Miami Marlins once again this season. But of course, here on SportsGrid, he is hosting the Just Baseball show, which comes your way in 30 minutes from now. Jack, great to catch you here on NewsWire once again, and happy baseball season to you.
Yeah, I would wish you a happy holidays, because this is kind of our version of the holidays, right? It's just nice to open Twitter, or X as it's now known, and just hear the pop of a glove and see a bunch of grown men in baseball uniforms stretching and just talking with each other, because there's really no physical exertion that happens on these days. It's just, hey, we're all around the complex and we'll chat with the media, yada, yada. But it's such a joy to know that we are even starting the process of getting our baseball back.
Affinitely so. I can't wait to do it. We'll have more news on that with Jack and I, by the way, this spring training. I don't know if I'm allowed to do it yet, but soon, next week, maybe the week after. Okay, so anyway, let's get to what we've missed in the last 7 days. It's actually been a lot. The hottest stove we've had thus far has gone down. Let's talk about what the Tigers have done, because this is what made the big news last week. It caught me completely by surprise that they were in on Framber Valdez, 3 years, $115 million. And this was all going on during the Tarek Skubal arbitration. So, in the media, what we try to do is tie things together. Is one thing correlated to the next? Did they know they were going to lose and then just basically said, let's go all in? Is it the opposite? Did they know they were going to lose and get Valdez to trade Skubal? I don't know the answers to any of this stuff, but I know that the Tigers have to be considered the clear favorite in that division by adding Valdez at this point.
Yeah, I would think so, especially with the dormancy that Cleveland has kind of showcased over the course of the offseason. And that's not out of the ordinary for the Cleveland Guardians. They typically like to compete with what they already have in-house. They're not going to make this big splash with a starting pitcher or, a center fielder or whatever they may need. So Cleveland's dormancy, coupled with what Detroit just did, I think absolutely makes Detroit the front runner in the American League Central. But I was trying to do the same thing as you. I don't think that's fair to Scott Harris, who's the new lead decision maker in Detroit. He's had that role for about 3 years now. This guy is really good at drafting, identifying, developing. They've got some of the best prospects in baseball. I think the second best prospect in the game, Kevin McGonigal, could be playing shortstop for them by May 1st. So you have that. How do you capitalize on this window? And this window of Tarek Skubal, maybe the best pitcher on the planet, is closing this year, it seems. If he were to be a Tiger for the foreseeable future, you would think it would have already happened by now because he's already on your team and he's probably slated for $400 million next offseason, but he gets his 1 year, $32 million pack by winning his arbitration case. The timing was weird, but what the Tigers have created, I think, is the best 1-2 punch in Major League Baseball. And, you know, a lot of people would hear that and say, well, what about what the Dodgers have going with Yamamoto and Snell? What about Philly with Wheeler and Sanchez? Well, Wheeler is coming off of a major shoulder issue. Snell is always an interesting and intricate guy. I think you can also pick two with Seattle, and you could say, well, what about Logan Gilbert, George Kirby? What about Gilbert and Brian Wu? What Skubal has done over the last couple of years and the consistency that Framber Valdez showcases year in and year out, I think they are the best 1-2 punch in Major League Baseball atop a rotation.
Yeah, I would agree. And you could see right now that the Tigers are plus 130 to win the division, followed by Kansas City, Cleveland, Minnesota, and certainly the Chicago White Sox are trying to get better this season, but still probably looking up at the majority of the division at the end of the season. Those are the current odds to win the American League Central. All right, we've got a lot of pitchers being signed over the last 24 hours here. Today, Aaron Savali lands with the A's. They keep spending money. Nick Martinez goes to Tampa Bay, so naturally we'll look at that one. Probably ended up being smart by Tampa Bay. They make a lot of good moves. Eric Fetty is back on the Chicago White Sox. And then Chris Paddock, you'll get to call his games this season as he will slot into that Marlins rotation. I'm guessing SP4, maybe SP5. He returns home to Miami, the place that originally had him many years ago. So I'll allow you, Jack, to have the floor here. You got 4 pitchers signing with different teams. All, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, on 1-year deals. Did they announce the Martinez deal? I didn't see the money on that one, but 4 pitchers, 4 deals.
Yeah, I think Martinez is 1 year 10 for Tampa. And that, to me, is the most intriguing one. Nick Martinez is a South Florida guy. He signs in, Central Florida, Western Florida? I don't know what Tampa is considered. But he signs in the state of Florida, so he stays in this state. Nick Martinez is, I think, a little bit better than the national perception of baseball would suggest he is. This guy was playing in a very hitter-friendly ballpark in Cincinnati, but he has this fastball changeup combination that I think gives a lot of hitters fits. And he knows his arsenal. He knows what he can do. And he knows how to kind of massage his way through when he doesn't have his best stuff. Tampa needed pitching. When you took a peek at Tampa's roster, you said, there's so much unproven here. And the proven is coming off of major injury. They traded Shane Baz. To me, one of my favorite arms to watch is the left-hander Shane McClanahan. I don't know what McClanahan's going to be. He really hasn't thrown in Major League Baseball in about 2 years. So you have this grab bag of maybe we get the good McClanahan, maybe we get the bad McClanahan on a given night. You needed some reliability. To me, Nick Martinez fits that. I also think you get some reliability with Chris Paddock in Miami. You've got this like irons in the fire approach to it seems like the 3 through 5 spot in that Marlins rotation going into this year. Paddock is a sense of reliability there while you wait for prospects like Thomas White, Robbie Snelling to really blossom. So those are the 2 that jump out to me. Martinez, certainly the headliner of those 4.
And Paddock, I can tell you, asking initially for $8 million about a month ago, ends up getting 4 from Miami. So a good deal, I think, for the Marlins. Okay, speaking of Marlins, former Marlin Marcell Ozuna has a new destination. It is in Pittsburgh. And if there is a destination that you want to sign with to try and boost your value for future years, it would appear this is it. I don't know how many games the Pirates are going to win. They've gotten better for sure on paper with Brandon Lau and Ozuna and Ryan O'Hearn. But Ozuna had a down season last year, hitting just .232 with 21 home runs. I would guess that these numbers will pop back up as the primary DH for the Pirates this season.
Yeah, I was looking at this, and I mentioned on the Just Baseball show, I have a feeling that we could be looking at this in 6 months saying that was an absolute heist by the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're 2 years removed from this guy hitting 300 with 40 homers, or just about those numbers. Marcell Ozuna is a menacing bat. And even in a down year or regression year, like you pointed out, 230 with north of 20 homers, that's not a bad year from your DH. And the Pirates are clamoring for that. They had one guy by OPS plus that was over 100, which means better than league average. They had one above average hitter in that lineup last year. Now they add an O'Hearn, who was an all-star last year. They add an Ozuna, who is a multi-time all-star. They add a Brandon Lau, who is an all-star. They kind of bucked the trend this offseason of run prevention. They just want to score runs. And that fan base is clamoring for runs to be scored on the backs of Paul Skeens and Bubba Chandler and Jared Jones and Mitch Keller. They have pitching taken care of. It's time to hit, and the Pirates are going to hit a little bit.
Do you think, Jack, what kind of position do you think that moves them into? I've noticed that their odds are now, I mean, I don't know why it took this long, but now finally ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals, which to me, I thought they were a complete rebuild here. But I guess just on that jersey with the birds that they think somehow that the Cardinals are going to be good. I don't personally think so. You got the Reds in the division. You got the Brewers in the division. I don't know that they moved ahead of them, but I would think that they should be at least in the mix at this point. That's fair, right?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I also think that they're looking at this wide open clump in the wild card seedings in the National League. You've got some heavy hitters in the National League, right? You look at the Mets, you look at the Dodgers, obviously the Padres. You can look at a couple others, the Philadelphia Phillies, who are one of the best teams in the NL. And then it gets wide open. So it's a fight. It's a scratch and claw for the 4 through 6 seed in the National League. And I think the Pirates fit that clump of teams that can compete for those final 2-3 wildcard spots.
A couple of big trades also over the past week in baseball. Jack and I will get to those next. You're watching NewsWire here on Sports Grid. We are talking baseball here with Jack McMullen from Just Baseball, and we'll continue that conversation when we come back right after these messages. Don't go away.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Can USA overtake Canada and get that gold, Joe?
Absolutely, they can here. And ultimately, it feels like that is the two-horse race. And I think ultimately, Canadians don't really care if their team competes in the luge or the bobsled, Donnie, or anything else. They just want that gold when it comes to ice hockey. And that is the only thing that's going to matter there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
Right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on crap.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
But I will say, at 4.5 and over, I've been with covers for 20 plus years now. I've been betting for a long time. When it comes to 4 and 4.5 point spreads, if I'm looking at the favorite, I do not lay the points. I go straight to the money line, knowing that it's minus 200. This has been a no man's land for football betting in the NFL, basically since 2015, since they moved the point after touchdown back.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Significant trades involving second baseman over the past week or so. We had Brendan Donovan traded to Seattle. I want to get into that with Jack McMullen. But first, let's talk about the most recent deal, because this is the one that I need Jack's emphasis and input on, because a lot of young players were moved in this trade. So the Milwaukee Brewers are getting back the multi-talented and often well-traveled, strangely enough, Kyle Harrison, left-handed pitcher, goes from Boston, where he only spent, I think, not even a year. Was it the Devers trade? David Hamilton also goes in return to Milwaukee. He's going to take the spot of the guy they traded, I assume. in Caleb Durbin, who was a fantastic second baseman, I thought, for them last year. Also, Andrew Monasterio was involved in the deal. The thought process, for sure, I get it. I'm going to guess that the Red Sox overpaid to get Durbin. But how much did they overpay to fill that position? They had been looking to fill second base the entire offseason.
To be honest, I really don't know if they overpaid to get Durbin, because Durbin is a heck of a player. So I don't know what an overpay looks like for that guy. The other thing that we got to factor in is Caleb Durbin comes with 5 years of control. And it seemed like the Red Sox were hunting second base or third base, and they were going to figure this out. And the Red Sox offseason has been fascinating. It took a long time for them to sign a major league free agent, right? They were operating in the trade market where they go and acquire Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras in 2 separate deals with the St. Louis Cardinals. But then they signed Ranger Suarez, and you're thinking, okay, it's time for some heavy hitters to come to Boston. Alex Bregman always felt like priority one, right? He was the guy that effectively took Rafi Devers' spot. The subplot in this is fascinating because Harrison was the headline of the return going back to Milwaukee. Kyle Harrison was the headline of the Rafael Devers deal. And now 3 of the 4 players you got back for Rafael Devers are in other organizations. They traded James Tibbs, they traded Jordan Hicks, and they traded Kyle Harrison. You're rerouting all these pieces. So the only guy left from San Francisco that came over in the Devers deal is a minor league pitcher that had an ERA north of 5 this year in Jose Bayo, which is fascinating to me in its own right. Bregman was probably priority one for Boston. He signs his $175 million deal with the Cubs. And then you pivot to, do we want a guy that can play second and third in Durbin, or do we want a guy that is going to handle third base every day in Isaac Paredes in Houston? Because Houston has a ton of infielders. They opt for the cheaper guy, and they opt for the guy with more control. Paredes is making about $10 million this year. He's got 2 years of control left. Durbin is making the league minimum. He's got 5 years of control left. And Caleb Durbin is a very strong, he's a small guy, but he's twitchy. He's a fun ad at third base or second base for the Boston Red Sox. The other funny thing about this trade is the Red Sox just took the entirety of Milwaukee's third base reserves. So they got their primary option at third in Durbin, their secondary option at third in Monasterio, and their tertiary option at third in Anthony Siegler. So they're clearly trying to steal a line from Billy Beane, recreate third base in the aggregate right now.
Yeah. I have no idea how they're going to fill that, but the Brewers always figure it out, and they end up winning the division. So who are we to argue? We haven't had a chance to check in on that trade that Mariners made to get Brendan Donovan, which to me, like, I see some of these odds, Jack, and with baseball, we're careful, you and I, about the betting and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't understand how the Cardinals even sniff 70-something wins this season. Like, they literally traded away their all-stars, their starting pitchers, everything else. And I think some of these projections are just based on, the jerseys or something like that, because I don't get it. Now, by the way, I think Chaim Bloom is going to be amazing in St. Louis, and I think he's doing all the right things there. But Burleson's left there. Who else? Like, I mean, what kind of expectations is this team supposed to have? And on the flip side, great move for Seattle. Everybody coveted Donovan, and he ends up going there.
Yeah, amazing move for Seattle. And I think Seattle should be considered one of, if not the favorite in the American League. They are a pretty flawless team. When you look at the rotation, the bullpen, and that lineup now, that lineup is new and improved. They bring back Josh Naylor, who was great after the deadline, after they acquired him from Arizona. They trade for Donovan. They bring in some other pieces, and it looks really nice. They added Rob Refsnyder, flies under the radar, can crush left-handed pitching. That rotation may be the best in baseball, 1 through 5. You had a Brian Wu breakout last year. He was an all-star. You still have Castillo, Gilbert Kirby, and Bryce Miller. You look at what St. Louis is doing, I guess the only reason that total would be that high is many people would expect a great version of Mason Wynn, the uber-talented shortstop. Ivan Herrera is one of the better hitting catchers, but he's now DHing for the most part in the game. So I guess you're banking on, maybe a bounce back from Jordan Walker, and then Wynn, Herrera, and Burleson really mashing for St. Louis. But I don't think that's fair when you trade Donovan, Contreras, Sonny Gray, Nolan Arenado. They depleted their whole darn team. So while Seattle is gearing up and they do not want to be denied in Game 7 of the ALCS again, St. Louis feels like they're restructuring, and they got a fascinating pitcher back in Jurangelo Sainja. That's how you say the name. First-round pick by Seattle in 24. Sainja was a switch pitcher For the most part, he's going to be a right-handed pitcher. This is an incredibly talented arm, a lot of really loud stuff. They've got some good prospects coming through, and it seems like they've sold off their pieces effectively, but they've sold off every piece. So I have no idea why the expectations are there in the mid-70s in terms of a win total for St. Louis in 26.
Yeah, I don't either. And we're going to get a chance to see that kid pitch for the Cardinals here coming up in Jupiter in spring training. So when is your first date in Jupiter? When is your first attendance? Is it next Monday? Is that what I'm guessing, or is it before then?
Yeah, so I'll conclude the 2-day drive from Pittsburgh to Jupiter. I'll conclude that on Sunday the 15th, and then I'm there bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Monday the 16th at I think 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. whenever we got to be there.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I will see you Monday in Jupiter. That'll be my lone day that I'm able to get over there, while still, obviously trying to host the show every day too. And then we'll see each other in spring training, I'm sure, afterwards. So thanks again for coming on NewsWire, Jack. And what do you got coming on the show, by the way, coming up here? A couple minutes.
World Baseball Classic roster preview. Really excited about that. So we kind of break down Team USA, the Dominican Republic. I think Venezuela could mess around and win the whole darn thing, and we'll talk about that. Venezuela is a loaded roster. So a lot of World Baseball Classic stuff coming up.
It will not be Puerto Rico. I looked at that roster.
No.
I can tell you it will not be Puerto Rico this year. All right. It will not. Thanks again, Jack. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
We'll take a quick timeout. We come back next. A very unique situation going on in college basketball. Is it possible the old owner of the Mavericks is the new owner? We'll get to that and a whole lot more in Last Licks. Don't go away.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Can USA overtake Canada and get that gold, Joe?
Absolutely, they can here. And ultimately, it feels like that is the two-horse race. And I think ultimately, Canadians don't really care if their team competes in the luge or the bobsled, Donnie, or anything else. They just want that gold when it comes to ice hockey. And that is the only thing that's going to matter there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
Right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on crap.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
But I will say, at 4.5 and over, I've been with covers for 20 plus years now. I've been betting for a long time. When it comes to 4 and 4.5 point spreads, if I'm looking at the favorite, I do not lay the points. I go straight to the money line, knowing that it's minus 200. This has been a no man's land for football betting in the NFL, basically since 2015, since they moved the point after touchdown back.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We wrap up the show with some news from college basketball and perhaps the NBA as well. Also, is it possible what's old is new again in Dallas? We'll get to that and a whole lot more as we wrap up this edition of Last Licks. All right, let's start off with a groundbreaking ruling in college basketball as Alabama center Charles Bediako His injunction to continue playing this season for Alabama has been denied by a judge, ESPN reports today. Who is Bediako and why does it matter? Bediako played in the NBA. He played with one of those G League teams. When you don't make it in the NBA, sometimes you play in like the minor leagues of the NBA, and decided to leave college and go do that and said, wait, whoa, no, not so fast. I want to go back and I want to go play in college, and I want to play at Alabama and maybe get some NIL money as well. Judge says no go. So, word to the wise for the future of college sports. If you play in college and then you play in the pros, you can't go back to college again. So this is a landmark case, first of its kind. Somehow they allowed him, by the way, to play several games with Alabama as well, but that's not going to be the case anymore. So now we know for sure that if you declare and you leave, at least for the time being, your career as a collegiate athlete is over, and Charles Bediako no longer going to play for the Alabama Crimson Tide. How about this story from the National Basketball Association and Mark Stein, who covers the league? An unidentified Dallas investor group is interested in partnering with former owner Mark Cuban to buy the Mavericks back from Patrick Dumont. Now, you may remember Dumont got majority control of the Mavericks several years ago. As everyone's understanding is, without knowing the exact details, Cuban is still an owner of the Dallas Mavericks, but he's not the control person. He's not the majority owner, so while he has no say whatsoever, except for being on the board of directors as to what happens with the Mavericks, which of course includes that Luka Doncic trade and everything else. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Cuban said he didn't even know anything about it until after it happened. This would certainly change. Apparently, the family that is undisclosed remains excited of the future of the franchise and the Cooper Flag era. Now, let me say this. It takes two to tango here. This could be a report about nothing, because if Patrick Dumont does not want to sell the controlling interest back of the Mavericks, it's just a silly story that means nothing whatsoever. But again, we tell you that there is someone interested in buying the team, and you wonder if there's a lot of money behind it, what could potentially happen. Stay tuned on this one. We got no more information other than that. Last night in the NBA, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Pandora's box officially opened. The Utah Jazz, who, make no mistake about it, are going through one of their worst seasons in franchise history, are trying to tank to the top. For the first time ever in the NBA, the team actually admitted it. In fact, yesterday, the head coach of the Utah Jazz told the media that after taking out two of his star players, Jackson and Markkanen, he had no interest whatsoever in bringing them back into the game. And the game was close. And those are his two best players. And he said he wasn't going to bring them in. Why? Makes no sense. Other than the fact that the team is trying to lose, it didn't work. The team still ended up beating the Miami Heat. And afterwards, not just the coach of the Jazz, but a player on the Heat, Bam Adebayo, said we got to beat teams that aren't trying to win. Wow. So, two different individuals from the game last night essentially alluding to the fact that there are teams trying to lose in the National Basketball Association. I guarantee you, in the near future, whether it's this week or next week, we will have a story as to how that will play out in the future, because regardless of the optics, the NBA cannot allow comments coming from coaches and coming from players admitting that teams are not trying to win in their league. That'll do it for Last Licks, and that'll do it for this edition of NewsWire. I want to thank our guests here on the show today. Dustin Gawker talking some prediction markets with us here on the show. Also, thanks to Gilbert McGregor covering Phoenix sports and the Suns. Big leaguer Dane Myers on the Cincinnati Reds as they open up camp this week. And also thanks to Jack McMullen from Just Baseball, which is coming your way in less than 5 minutes. Also, don't forget, you can download the SportsGrid app, which is available for iOS and Android, simply by taking out your phone and scanning this QR code. You can watch my show and all the other shows here on SportsGrid throughout the weekend on the app. It is the SportsGrid app. It is free and available to download whenever you like. And also, you could track your bets, by the way, with the upcoming NCAA tournament. For those of you who are going to betting a lot, you could track those in the app as well. All right, that'll do it for the show today. Thanks again to our director, Luke, for my producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. I'll see you on our next edition of NewsWire, which will be Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. I look forward to seeing you all there. Have a great rest of your day and night, everyone. See you then.